And the sound should be in. You can say hello. And I hope this works. And I hope we're in. And I hope the stream started. And now is the sound check time. If anybody, if we're... Yeah, I know I can hear myself. Okay, so we cannot hear you. That's definitely now. That's the horrible part we saw. And now we should hear you.
Okay, let's see if now I'm sounding.
All right, everything is okay. It seems like all good. Thanks for those who were joining in and waiting for this, or those who are watching later. So this is Diego, and he's gonna introduce himself because he can do it better because he knows himself best, right?
I think so. So my name is Diogo, and I'm the founder of Better Mistakes. We are an agency focused on Webflow development and web design, and more specifically on building websites that are scalable by the teams themselves. So we provide like what we call a marketing web system, and yeah, that's pretty much it. We can dive a little bit more in detail later, but I think that pretty much sums it.
Okay, so you guys try to aim to build sites that the team behind the website later, after they take it off from you, can grow themselves.
Yeah, exactly. So we of course we are always there to support them, and if there are new sections or something like that that need to be built, we are there for them. But the main goal is to, when we end off the website, we don't have just the standard pages ready, but we have like a library of sections or modules, whatever you want to call it, that the teams can copy and paste or drag and drop and start building new pages kind of from scratch. And it's all ready. So basically, they just need to fill in the text, the images, and it's ready to publish.
Okay, cool. That sounds interesting. Especially, so I assume you guys abuse the component system, and the new update helped you even more.
Yeah, for sure. It was a big, although kind of smaller than what we wish in November, but it was kind of a good enough update on the symbols / components.
All right, so let's jump into another screen. Let's open this and let's look at your website. And I'm gonna scroll down. So you guys are called Better Mistakes. You know what? I usually, before I start, I actually go to something else than people think. Oops. And then I just do sitemap, because that's what I start to understand the website. Yeah. So I copy that. I go to a spreadsheet. And then, oh, is everything okay? I think we lost the sound. No, we didn't. Okay, so, and wait, okay, yeah, it was weird, but yeah. So, and of course I clean it up. So we're just gonna do, we have this. We're just gonna clean it up and replace all. And then the same, and then we have this part, place all, and here. All right, so now we have your sitemap, and we can just sort it like this. Well, there's one more left, but so we see it's a tiny site.
Yeah.
And the last thing I usually do, just so it's easier, I take this part and I paste it in and I replace that with nothing, so I see the website. So, which is your main CTA page? I assume this one, right? Oh, by the way, can you see it good? I'm probably gonna zoom the hell out of this.
Yeah, I can I can see very well, not because of the zoom, but because of kind of the image quality.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, but I think the main call to action page would be kind of that's kind of a good question. I think the main call to action page would be kind of the contact page where they can actually reach out to us. Although we have.
So you don't have an agency backend?
What do you mean by agency
No,
backend?
like some sort of client portal or something like that where they can log in and.
We do have like a dashboard for the clients that is managed through Notion,
Ah, okay.
but
So-
not typical kind of portal.
Okay, and this is, I assume, just a help page? No, some sort of brand guide. Okay, we can open up actually.
Yeah.
So this is just your brand pack, so media. All right, so these two go to the end for me. I hope you can see at least somewhat. Yeah, so what I see, there's one CMS, which is called Work.
Mm-hmm.
And that's your probably client. Yeah, we have your clients that you work with, right?
Yeah,
Okay,
exactly.
cool. So that's enough to start. So we know how big the site is, what's there, what's not, and this should be your services. From what I'm guessing, is should be your main kind of money page, because this is after you click on home or you land on this page is where the magic should happen, where the conversion should happen, whether or not you're the right agency for your client. This is where it should happen, right?
Exactly.
Okay, cool. So first things first, let's check your website. Let's check your website for probably your main keyword, which would be Webflow agency or Webflow agency, probably, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's run. Wrong thing. Okay, let's try again. So this one. Let's run that again, and while that's running, let's jump to the questions you had before. So before we jump into this, I want to make a disclaimer, which is very simple. So agency SEO in general is not the best strategy to get leads. It requires a lot of energy, and it requires a lot of power from content side, and from website has to be quite big, and a lot of things have to happen. And at the end of the day, that's why most agencies just do paid advertising, as in pay Google to be shown as ads, So that's like the important part. That's why it's not very scalable, and it's doable, but then you have to go big or go home. It's not something you can do small. All right, so let's see how our AI is doing. Still working on it. Oh, it came. So. AI didn't pull your homepage content, which is weird. I will run it again, but in the meantime, let's check how your homepage looks, and let's download all headings from your homepage. I'm gonna open it in Excel so you guys don't see it, but I'm just gonna copy it up. One sec, and now we're copying it, and we're gonna add another sheet. Oops, one sec. No, it's not working the way I want it to work, but okay, so technical difficulty. Wait, so let's import then. So let's import this that I just got. You know what, I'm gonna download it again. So this is a tool that allows me to see, and of course, first problem I see, you don't have a meta description. I know that a lot of people now are saying that you don't need it, but this is the first thing that happens when somebody Googles it, right? So in this case, if I Google better mistakes Webflow, it pulls first sentence from your site. Google has algorithms that rewrite this, but this is your biggest sales copy if anybody ever Google's, and that's now your first sentences. So that's something that should probably be fixed and optimized. And the most important part to remember is that Webflow would always bold keywords that you just typed into the search, right? So you have to understand that if this is your homepage, for example, it should be optimized for your brand, and it should be optimized for, so for example, changing this word from experience to website would be better, because nobody Googles Webflow experiences, but a lot of people Google Webflow websites. So these are tiny things that of course will show up in the copy itself as we get to it. So okay, it pulled finally. All right, somehow it glitched. Yeah. So what we're looking here is like an analysis of your content against average content that shows up in first 20 positions. I can see who's in first 20 positions when you Google that. We see a lot of famous names here, right? And of course, with Webflow, the biggest problem is that Webflow has so many domains and so much content and so much domain authority that Webflow shows up in first 8 positions.
Yeah.
So, but that's it doesn't mean that you cannot beat it. It just means that it is the way it is, and you have to get creative. Good part is that the content scores are low, and you can see who's ranking in position 9 as soon as Webflow as Webflow last URL from Webflow comes is somebody who has like insanely good content, and also it has 3,000 words on the page.
Wow.
So, and you guys have 600. And the target they say here is 550. But again, this analysis is crooked because of Webflow being first 8 results. Later, this is gonna change, but now, especially when they introduce those whole agency websites, made in Webflow agency, like they have so much content around it that it's kind of hard. So you have to look for those unique twists that when somebody, for example, Google's responsive website or stuff like that, you know?
Gotcha.
So yeah. Now here we see, all right, so let me come back to the homepage that you guys have, download your headings again, and now we're gonna import it as a CSV, and it is selected, yep, all right. So we have your headings. It shows that you guys have 2 H1s. So this should be edited, right?
Yeah, that's not good.
But then the most important part is that, for example, H3s, you know what, let's make it a little bit easier. So H2s, let's make it bigger. H3s leave the way they are. H2s, let's make it even bigger. So what happens is H3s should be nested between below H2s, right? So what we get here is that if I just look at the logic, this should be clients we work with or something like that. So, and then there should be a list of H3s because these are your clients. So it kind of, and now we just have basically crawler sees that there's this sentence, and then after that we have the clients listed, which kind of doesn't coherently follow any logic, you know. But yeah, if we go back to the homepage, well, there might be some OG stuff, but that's again coming from the same. So open graph is not filled, but you guys gonna fix this because description is the same. It's not blocked, and that's good. All right. So, so this is an H1. And that's the weird part. And this is an H1 again. So you guys have like an H1 way down below.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a tiny thing. But actually what I was, that's a good segue. What I wanted to kind of chat about is, so Webflow has this kind of unique property where your H1s not necessarily need to look like H1s. And that's a good, you know, especially if you add that tagline, you know, that design element that would show up somewhere here, like a tiny tagline, and it will just say Webflow website development agency or something like that, and you turn that into an H1, style it as a tagline, and make this just the text, even though style it as an H1. That's like the biggest cheat I usually use for clients when that's the case, when where the headings don't match SEO purposes, because here you kind of now optimizing for Webflow experiences, trying at least, you know. So this should be changed into not experiences but websites probably, or you know, something like that. So there's either, if you want to keep creative copy, you add a tagline and in, you know, the most basic language explain what it is. Or you adapt some headlines, you know.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Any questions?
Yeah, what would you recommend, for example, if we follow the design that I mean the problem that we have on the project. So you can see that right now on the homepage, when you jump to the top of the page and you start scrolling and you start seeing that two columns with projects, that we don't have a title for that section. We don't say like work or some of the clients we work with. How could we, so would you recommend, for example, having an H2 so that says work, for example, but it's hidden? So kind of the crawlers know that the language is kind of or the topic is work, but it's not shown visually.
Can you rephrase the question? Because I was also looking, somebody I think is saying echo, Maria is saying echo, right? So there's some issues with the stream, guys? Can you let us know before we continue? Just I want to double check that when we continue to your question. So if anybody's watching and want to just say, hey, yeah, it's bad, then tell us now. So we do a tiny kind of... Yeah, so if I understand correctly, your question is whether or not there should be more pages?
No. So if we go back, if we scroll back to the top of the homepage,
yes,
please. So you see that between kind of where the projects start, you see those thumbnails.
Yeah.
There is no specific title for that section. There is no title saying, for example, work or some of the case studies. But crawlers, I would say that they would appreciate knowing what the title is, right? So if we want visually to keep this structure, so no title, how could we do this? Would you recommend, for example, having an H2 saying work, but then we visually hide it? Would that be valid?
Yeah, that's one. So for example, in the same style as here, you have here, look at some projects we worked on or something like that, right? Or websites we built would be even, Webflow websites we built would be the most perfect. So we just have this that ends with a, you know, with a double dot, and then you list it out, and you still use the same design. That would be one way, right?
Gotcha.
So it doesn't change. There's only 4 words added here, right?
Yeah.
So, and then that would be one way. Of course, you can, without, because we're looking at stuff we can fix easily without changing too much stuff, you know?
Exactly.
So yeah, but the most important part, I think, looking at your sitemap, coming back to the sitemap, again, I don't know if you guys can see it better, but so you should have services, should be just a static page for your CMS that is services. Does that make sense? And now we prepared some stuff for it. So, yeah. So this is a quick clone of one of the structures I'm working now on a bigger kind of project where there's like, we need 5 CMSs to basically put all the product together, so it makes sense in semantic and SEO terms. In most cases, if I change it a little bit so it doesn't leak what it is, but in your case, it should be only 2 things. So you have, you know, services, and you have the service, right? There's 2 CMSs you have to create. These are categories of stuff. So web, and I had it somewhere here, right? So all these from what you guys have here should be on your website.
Got
right?
it.
And each
So-
one of them would have a page on its own, and with Webflow, easiest way to do it would be a CMS. But then some of these can be grouped. So for example, branding and strategy and animation is kind of design service, right? It doesn't necessarily need to be attached to in theory, to a website, right? Illustration, animation, branding, and animation and illustration, for example, for sure, right? And then the web development is web development category in its own. So you need to find like a way to, first of all, create a page for each one of these. And then second of all, how to group them into groups. So there's like a category of services you provide. And now to show an example, this is like an Webflow SEO guy, William. Hope you guys know him. So it's an example of how a SEO guy approaches the same kind of problem, right? First of all, if we go to the footer, you see what's done here. The same as I just kind of said, because that's important. And even tiny things, listing optimization, listing management, and things like that should kind of, designer would think that's the same thing, but even that kind of is required, right? And when you think about it, he just grouped them into 4 categories.
Yeah.
So these are pages that when you go there, and then in theory, these should, these would be not just an explanation of how it's done, but these would be those services that he has here listed, you know, because for, let's say, for SEO services, you would list the different types. Then those cards would link to the final kind of lowest form of service, you know. So
Gotcha.
does that answer the question, or?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, I was not sure if that would help in any way or not.
All right, so Maria is saying that my sound might be lower, so I'm gonna put my microphone closer. Let me know if that's better. All right, so continuing. So as you can see, based on if we want to rank for a Webflow agency, right, there needs to be way much more content on this page. Or in Webflow case, it can also be 59 words, but then it has to be insanely high domain authority.
Yeah.
Which means like a lot of links coming to you, which none of the agencies usually play with. The good part is that if you link to yourself, or write a blog post to your clients for free and then link to yourself, or just put it in the footer, which is not cool actually, but still a practice. The more websites you build and the more clients let you to keep like a link anywhere. It doesn't need to be in the footer. It can be just a blog post that you say, hey, when we finish the site, we publish one free blog post for you, but then we link it to ourselves, and that's how we kind of keep it. That's like, so agencies have ways to kind of get that authority, but it's not that simple.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so that's that. What I had more. All right, so coming back, and of course when you're creating this, I usually work in this scenario, I don't want to go into too much detail, but this is a static page, as you said. In your case would be services, then we have service group or just category or whatever. I usually, to keep URLs simple, I make 2 CMSs. So the categories the services would be, and the service is the service. So keep the slugs clean, you know. And then you have like a category page and the service page, and usually it can be the same design. You don't need to just reattach different collections or do that differently. But what you're looking for ways to link everything together, because everything has to link to everything. As one page grows, others starts growing also because they are linking to it, you know.
Right.
Cool.
So that internal linking is important, you would say. Right?
Yeah, that's the most important part.
Okay.
That's like, because SEO in theory is just content and links, right? So you have to have good content. That's why anytime you make any page, you first need to Google before even designing, or just Google that thing. Like just Google it and look what's there, because you're going to be fighting these guys, not anybody else, you know? So the content and then the links, both internal and external, matter. So, if Webflow would link, that's why this link right here, oops, where was it? Oh, here. So this link right here kind of matters. That doesn't matter if it's even no follow. I'm not going to check it, but this kind of matters because it shows that, okay, so when you Google Webflow agency, these guys are actually an agency because Webflow says so, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's that. Now, I don't know why at least Crawler doesn't see below the content. Where was it? Oops. Yeah, okay, cool. So doesn't see this text. Oh, because it's a link probably. Is it a link?
I think it's just a text block.
Oh, so this is a link block and this should be, okay. So it should see it. Well, okay, that's the thing. By the way, guys, those watching, if anybody has any questions, drop them down. We're still learning to kind of track everything as it goes, but if I notice something, I'm gonna, chat about it, and for sure we're gonna talk about it. So yeah, so that whole service part would be the most important one. Okay, now let's jump to another page and see what we find there. Yeah, so for example here, I just went to work by accident, but same here, the heading means nothing, and crawlers only show you based on the headings, mostly. Like there's 200 ranking factors, but first one is like, what is it? Headings. So that's why when I write content or design content for like sites, I start with just the heading structure, as in literally H1 is this, H2, H2, H3 is below, and then two H2s again, and whatever. So the whole mix. And the test I like to do is if I take just the headings and format them the way they are, H1, H2, H3, because H3s are subparts of that above H2. If I read it, can I understand what the page is about? Without seeing any design, no text even in between, no even like, can I understand what it is? And so that's, I think, the interesting part. What else we have here? I'm gonna zoom out a little bit. Yeah, so those headings, and again, with Webflow, I love tags. Tags with clients saved me so many times because we want to keep that creative copy, but also it does make sense, So
yeah.
All right, so services. Again, same situation. This tagline could be, something else. Now, there's a question at this point whether or not services or home should be optimized for anything. So in current practices, I noticed that not optimizing homepage for anything is kind of probably the best idea. As in keeping it brand, just brand related, the way you want to present yourself if somebody lands on the homepage. Because properly designed sites, almost nobody will come through the homepage.
Yeah.
Because they have to be aware of you. And if they're aware of you, you did your marketing well somewhere else.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah. All right. Oh, we have questions. So we're going to pop up some questions. All right. So Isabel is asking, how to know where's the line between making sure you're using the keywords enough and keyword stuffing? Wait, let's raise Isabel a little bit. All right. So, okay. So the tool I showed you, for example, which you're probably not going to expose, shows how many times you have to use each word. It shows, not to be spammy, but logically, like narratively writing this a semantic text that can be understood, how many a normal average result uses each word. So that's one way to look at it. But in theory, think about it like think about that your content is kind of written for humans, so it has to be human friendly, but at the same time you have to use all the right words so that crawler can understand what it's about. So using these fancy copy terms as in here experience, as we just taught, is always kind of better to just swap it with something that would be actually a product or a service that you guys provide, I hope that kind of answers the question. And Okay, Eric is asking, how did you do that thing to get the complete sitemap? Okay, so every website ever, if you type in at the end sitemap.xml, you're gonna go to their sitemap. There are ways to lock this, but it's so rare that you can always just pull the site. By the way, this is the sitemap that they provided. So the website itself can be bigger, but this is what the site shows to Google. Because you can remove and add parts to it. On Webflow, it's generated automatically, and now I don't know how long ago, but when I noticed, I was like, yes, they introduced a feature where you can paste this in and remove some parts, so basically just submit a custom sitemap. So yeah. All right, so Diego, something else before we continue?
So yeah, maybe we can jump to the top of the work page or even the services page, whichever is easier for you, and kind of just to make sure that I got the right idea.
Services?
Yep.
Yeah, sure, services.
Okay.
Here, go, man.
So would you say that what is right now, what says timeline services, which is like the tagline, so it should say like something more SEO friendly, right? Not just services, and be the H1.
Well, it depends. If this is your main page, as in here you want to optimize for Webflow agency, then it should go to that direction. If your homepage is the main Webflow agency thing, then the homepage. It depends, because it depends on all other pages. Because you don't, sorry, my bad. You don't want to cannibalize. In English, cannibalize. Yeah, you don't want cannibalize. It's probably throughout the stream. I'm gonna say it wrong now. So you don't want to create duplicate pages. Like, so if you say this is for that and this is for that, but in this case, the answer would be, services that we provide, that kind of makes sense because that's what you provide, right? So it should be, Webflow development and design services or something. That would be bottom, highest end kind of tagline. If it's an H1, by the way. Yeah, okay. And this can say whatever, but then you swap it with a text block and just style it as a heading. But so that's a way to do that. But again, you have to run. Usually, the way you do this is you run this check. By the way, I noticed that sometimes here I don't see them in order. So here, for example, we have an H2. That should be text block.
Yeah.
And then we have. It doesn't highlight because probably it's wrapped in something. But yeah, so you should just turn off the site, copy all the headings that you have, and be able to understand what it's about. And it should be quite a coherent pathway, as in reading experience, because don't forget that on mobile, people usually don't read stuff, especially they don't read text. They read headings and look at images and they scroll. And then if they scroll enough and they see that's something they want to read, then they will kind of come back and then they're going to read it. I don't know about you guys, but at least whenever I open a new SaaS website, first thing I do, I go to pricing. And then I start reading, because that sets expectations from what I expect from a tool that costs, $20 a month or $200 a month,
Yeah.
So that's kind of that. Does that answer the question?
It does. Thank you.
Yeah. So I would start by making just literally that whole service as a system, like creating a system that showcases your services and categorizes them, right? All right. So we had some questions before from you, and that's why this amazing Figma board happened. Which one do you want to start with?
Let me quickly check.
You don't see them, or?
No, I still see the content very blurry, but that's fine. I have it open here.
Oh, wait, while you're opening them, I'm gonna double check if I can help you with that. Guess CHD video should work now, but I know what you're talking about. That happened, yeah.
I think the one I think I would be kind of interested to know is basically, I think blog posts like if it is worth writing blog posts or not, I think you somehow already answered that. Kind of, it's a battle, and you either go like all in or it's not worth it. So I think that's kind of the. I think it answers basically the question. Is it the worth is depending on what you are worth investing, right?
I would say it's always worth it because first of all, you have to update your site constantly for Google to see, oh, these guys are actually working on it. It's not that they just dropped it and, this is the hottest mixtape of that year and forgot about it for years. So Google likes to see changes. That means somebody's working on it. And the blog post part is, it depends what kind of blog post, let's say like this. Because if you're going to be writing for topics that you want to rank, but they're hard. Okay, so let me prepare for a moment because I had another tab ready for this exact scenario, but I just have to locate it. Okay, I think I located it and we switched to that. All right, so if we look at the keyword difficulty for something like Webflow Agency, it says that you need roughly 5 links. In this case, let's say your homepage is optimized for Webflow Agency, right? So in theory, it says you need 5 links from other websites to rank in the page 1. And keyword difficulty just shows how much actual link juice you need, right? And it kind of tells us the traffic potential is 200 or something. And then I ran a test. Your guys are not showing up in top 100 yet. Yeah. So we can check the guys that are ranking for it. Remember those 3,000 words?
Yeah.
Well, this is it. By the way, I don't see a lot of links here. Huh. That's actually quite interesting. Yeah. Even though there's 100, so there is something here. Anyways, so this is a page that ranks basically, let's call it number 1 if you Google. You see? And we're just still scrolling. That's SEO. That's why everybody hates us. When designers hates us, that's how it works. Yeah, the links part is somehow messed up. I cannot see it, but somehow. Wait. Oh, yeah. Okay, now I can see it. My bad. So yeah, so they have roughly 100 outgoing links, internal and 11 external, probably socials and stuff. And every green thing now is a link to something. And actually, like in SEO on homepage, 100 links to something is usually like the baseline that you start, because So yeah, and then because we're talking about the blog part, well, you have to solve specific kind of. You cannot write about what you wanna, like, I don't know, what's the hot topic of Webflow? What would be the, let's think of something. What's the...
Page branch? I don't know.
Yeah, okay, so let's do that. let's look at it, all right. So Webflow page branching. All right, so of course Webflow will rank first, even with an ad. Then university Webflow, then Webflow again wishlist. That means if you would write a coherent blog post about this, probably you would rank for it.
Gotcha.
Because Twitter is showing up here. So that means usually that there's an opportunity. If you would make hey, this is how page branching works, this is how we use it, this is like write a how-to type of blog post, you would probably rank here. Now, that all depends on your domain authority, of course. The bigger your site, the more easier it gets to rank. And also, but these kind of things is, if you start writing a blog, you have to kill complete topics. So you take something like, I don't know, components, right? Webflow components. what you see, and then write about Webflow components versus symbols. Write about Webflow components tutorial, how to start. Webflow React components, you write about it. UI components, you write another blog post about it. And that's how you kill like the whole Webflow components. Anything you can think of, anything can be turned into a separate topic, you turn it into a separate topic and link everything together. So whenever you're writing and you mention, you're writing about React and you mention UI, you link to another blog post. And so you build these kind of clusters. That's the trick about blogs. That's the problem. It would be easy if I just woke up and say, hey, I have an hour, I could punch something out. No, it has to be a prepared long plan of topics and those links before and you link everything together, So
Awesome.
yeah, so that's blog posts. If you build a network of blog posts, sure, do it. But if you just write one here and there and there's no strategy in there, because if one of these blog posts start ranking in page 2 and it links to all others, that also raises those. So you kind of raise this as a tree, not as with all the branches, not one thing,
Cool. Didn't know that.
Yeah,
That's interesting.
that's called clusters and content clustering, and that's why you need those topics always, because that's why like even your services need to have like some sort of category, because then they're grouped together, and then things start to make sense as clusters of content. How is everything connected to everything? Because you have to explain to crawlers how is your website connected. Any page on your website connected to any other page, and the only way you can do that is by linking to it.
Gotcha.
So that whole internal linking is a math in itself, and that's where I usually start. This is how I prepare. Wait, how do I play it? Yeah, this is like a sitemap that I prepare, and each one of these is an URL for a new project before we even start. Like, everything, what will be linked to anything, how is it connected, what kind of CMS you need, and stuff like that. So you prepare like at least 100 pages before you launch it to know what's going to happen, and then you build.
Awesome. Yeah, it's quite a lot. It's kind of what I came to the conclusion is that SEO is not. Sometimes there is the understanding that SEO is kind of some improvements here and there that you need to make, and you will be better. Of course, you probably will be a little bit better, but just that itself is going to do nothing or very little.
I say it's something like, your website is a library, right? And you're designing these shelves and then prepare those books. And each page is a book. That's why there's one H1, because there's only one name to the book. It cannot be, if it's a different name, then it's a different book, And you're designing the system. So if your system is fucked up, nobody will use your library and also Google will not pitch it because it's a bad library. Nobody understands how, and that's why you're designing like website. For me, the way I work with people is designing a like information system. It starts with information architecture, and it ends with just the content in the end game. But first you have to design this system that kind of supports, and that book, or that page has to be prepared to fight other bestsellers in this industry. So that's kind of how I see it, And then it's 50% math and 50% magic, because it works every time, 60% of the time, even if you know everything and you've done it already, but still sometimes, because you're playing chess with, 1 million players at the same time, and everybody has different amount of figures, and everybody's playing with different kind of powers,
Yeah, there are a lot of variables that are not in your control.
Yeah.
Cool.
So we had another question. What was it? What's the common mistakes, or what we had more? We had people organically. We can chat about that if you want.
Yeah, we can start with this one.
So can you just kind of your question? How was it? Like, what's the concern?
So I think we already covered part of this, which is what you said about like the services pages. So not only have one page with everything, but kind of having multiple, one page for having a cluster, and then having like a page for each service, and then they all play together. So that's kind of one kind of idea. One idea that I had was kind of doing that, but for example, for the different, if we have different type of clients or customers, for example, if one type of customer is agency, another is kind of startups, and another enterprises, for example, could that help, or would that have like?
Again, keeping that disclaimer in mind that it's extremely hard and Webflow has too many domains in the first place.
Yeah.
But we're building something I like my site. I haven't started barely on it, but like my site is again services, right? The main four things we offer, right? And then I have all the sub-services, and they're all grouped into those main categories, right? That's the beginning, you know. So yes, the answer is sure. It's always better to group things together. And it always is better. And that's where like I think working with certain UI designers and UX designers, for me at least, show that if there's like a lot of collaboration happening and people talk it out and pitch ideas and try this and then fail, and you can find very good things that are good both for SEO and doesn't look like shit, and the UI experience is quite awesome, you know. But yeah, as much as like grouping and as much as showing crawlers, creating pages. Of course, you cannot create pages just to create pages. You have to fill them with unique content, and that has to be, even if you, and especially with Webflow, it's very easy to just drop in a CMS collection, assign elements, call it a day. Yeah. But actually that's would be bad if you don't add at least like, I don't know, 600 words of unique some sort of content, you know, surrounding that whole thing. It can be after that collection block, it can be before, doesn't matter how you work it out, but there has to be some sort of uniqueness on it, because otherwise crawler just says, oh, I saw this elsewhere. It looks exactly the same as the other client category or the other client category. So yeah, if you work, for example, because that also helps you build those service pages, right?
Right.
Because you now say, we work with SaaS clients, and you link to that. And we work with, you know, I don't know, web apps, and we link to that. And we work with restaurants, and you link to that. And then you have, but for that, again, in the bottom, you have to have at least few restaurants that you work with, you know. Yeah. It can be as little as one, but it cannot be zero.
Exactly. No, it makes sense.
Yeah, so if anybody has questions in the chat, I know I'm doing a bad job at checking them, but this is kind of first stream for us, so we're trying to keep things organic and see how it goes. So yeah, let's move back to where were we? Common mistakes and information is clear. I think we kind of chatted about the information is not clear. It's not that it's not clear. You just have to think like a 3-year-old trying to find you on the internet.
Yeah.
SEO is like thinking how the meta person would type this into Google. And if you get into those shoes, the more you practice, the more you realize it's quite simple. It's just, you have to don't add fluff, remove all the copy, cool words, and leave only the base like what it is. So common mistakes. What do you think common mistakes are?
I think one common mistake, I'm not sure if it's a mistake per se, but it's something that we realize that as kind of, because one of the main reasons why we decided to build this website, and by the way, this website has it's like 1 month old or something like that. That's why we have so many.
We've been waiting for this site to go live so we can do this.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why it still has a lot of things to polish, and we are okay with that because it's kind of a work in progress as everything that is internal. We were focusing on kind of our client projects, but I think one of the common mistakes, or maybe it is, maybe it's not, is kind of not focusing enough on testimonials, kind of on building credibility. And that's kind of one of the main reasons why we did all this effort on in terms of branding and in terms of new website. Why a new website? It's not just because it's a new year, but it's mostly because we did a rebrand and we wanted the website to reflect what we are as a company in terms of kind of quality and kind of the quality of the service that we provide. And attached to that is kind of the honest testimonials from clients. So I think that's one thing that I don't see too often.
But are you guys now gathering those testimonials?
We are.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So you're like actively now trying to, hey guys, we built you this last year. Can you drop us a line about it? Something like that.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes it's kind of, we do like, it depends on how we see like the client comfortable, but we start a conversation about, hey, are you available to record kind of an informal chat, like about your experience of working with us? They usually are pretty open to it. So we have quite a few in video format on the website. I think we only have 3, but we are kind of in the process of having more. But yeah, we are making that part of our process, or it's already part of our process. Like when we finish a project in a few weeks, months, we check in and we ask them for a testimonial.
Okay. So you think the issue for your site is now lacking testimonials?
Our side, I think, or we try to do our best to have enough testimonials. So I think we have quite a few. So I think in that part we are good. But I was talking kind of generally that sometimes I see that kind of the social proof is not there. And sometimes I see like the two opposites. Either agencies don't have anything and it's just kind of work and case studies and all that, or it's like too marketing and it's kind of a wall like on the homepage where what do you see, for example, when you are buying a course, that spammy courses that you have like a huge list of testimonials and you're like, okay, I got it.
I would say I don't know. Like, honestly don't know about that, because you should need to run A/B testing on this.
Yeah.
Because who knows what works best? Showing
exactly.
your expertise and talking in human language shows your expertise, even if you don't add those tiny avatars and, the maybe only SEO thing I would add, if you guys are not working on the testimonial side, is when you get those, ideally testimonials would have like links to their Twitter profiles or websites or whatever. I know for the UI, it's kind of not awesome to be like, here's 5 avatars with tiny comments and star ratings, and we link to their Twitter bio so you can get distracted. But in other words, this kind of builds credibility for Google, that you guys actually work with people, that those people exist, that those testimonials exist. Because I can write testimonials, don't worry. I can send you 30 tomorrow if you wanna, but you know how it works. And Google is a lot, and especially with the current more and more, well, everybody in the SEO world have been using GPT-3 last year. Nobody talked about it. Now everybody's using it, and there's like, oh, because even I had projects where I used it because it's just the way you have to do it, because nobody's going to read that content anyways, but they need it fast.
Yeah.
So same here, like that whole, and especially if they can tweet or just link to you or whatever, that helps, because that shows that there was EAT in SEO, which meant I always have to Google that, man. Always forget those 4 words. And they added now a new E, so I know the first one that they just added is experience. Wait, let me. All right, so now, it was expertise, authoritative, and trustworthiness, which basically means social proofs. You as a team link there, and you guys link to your LinkedIn profiles and stuff like that. And then also like showing that you're professionals in your vertical, as in those blog posts come in. Like, oh, components, I know a lot about components, here you go. And then like a 2,000 word post about components with images, with alt text and stuff like that, properly formatted. So and then these things kind of come together. That's why you have to kill the whole vertical of a topic, because that shows to Google, oh, these guys know a lot about components, for example, and just lay it out. And now they added experience as another E before that. So fourth kind of parameter that shows your value. Why? No, because AI doesn't have experience. So it came correctly at the time when now you have to also show that you did that.
Got it.
So they've been working on algorithm was detecting not unique images in blog posts, for example, especially product reviews and stuff like that. But now it's getting better and better of understanding, do you own this product to write about it? Like, are you writing and you have it in your hand, or you don't? So I think that's happening,
Awesome. No, that's good to know. Good to know.
So, any closing thoughts, guys? Where they can find you? What's happening? What you guys working on? And other stuff. And I would really love to have you over ever and kind of chat about the system you mentioned.
Totally. Yeah. Just invite us, and we'll be happy to join to talk a little more in detail. And you can find us basically on no, that's not true. We are not on any social network. We are pretty much on Twitter and on LinkedIn. You just search for Better Mistakes or you can go directly to bettermistakes.com. And we have all the links in there.
Yeah. So go to Better Mistakes, find them, and then you're gonna find their Twitter and LinkedIn here. So follow them, really cool guys, work with, what I love that they work with the systems. So that's kind of, I would love to dive deep. And where was it? Like in your, I think here, right? You had this is the image that kind of sold me. Because this is very good image, very, very good image. For me, it kind of explains everything that I need to know. I don't know how it works for the client, but I think for the client, these 3 bubbles are important.
Yeah, exactly.
I see here more than I think average client sees.
Exactly.
And I know the struggle. It's hard to. But I'm glad that you guys work with clients that have teams, which sounds awesome. Would be probably very awesome.
Yeah. I think they can see probably the most value when they have teams, and it's interesting because the teams that come more and more to us are teams like that. They want scalability, and that's kind of one of the main reasons why they are scalability and kind of independence. That's why they are kind of trying to move to Webflow, but they don't really know what that means because a bad Webflow website is still not scalable, is still not flexible. So you will have probably the same problem, but on a different platform. So we are trying to mitigate that problem a little bit by kind of building those libraries, which are much simpler to use to the normal user, like a normal marketing team, than trying to learn Webflow from scratch.
And you guys provide a very detailed. How do you onboard? How does onboarding look after? Because, so imagine scalable site has components, a lot of them, and it has CMSs. And if they're built, if the sitemap architecture is built correctly, you have a lot of kind of flexibility of how you're going to manipulate it, how you're going to throw it. And with a proper sitemap architecture, you can scale that into the moon. Well, into the limit, actually.
Yeah, exactly.
But how does the onboarding? Because I imagine that these guys that take it over are not highly technical.
Yeah. What we do is when we end off these libraries, we do an onboarding call with them, usually 1 hour or 2 hours, just to make sure that we kind of demo what the real thing. And then we demo the real thing, and they can ask anything that comes to mind at that moment. And then we allow them to play with it a little bit, even if it's a duplicate or something like that, to make sure that nothing happens. And while they are doing that, we are kind of recording some custom looms for them, so they can have an history of videos I can watch too.
Okay, cool. All right. And what's the biggest issue you have with clients taking over? Because scalable systems giving to client, like I'm so would like to chat for an hour with you. So what's the biggest kind of horror story to end this off?
There are not big horror stories, but the main thing, and it didn't happen like too long ago, was that we delivered this and people were kind of comfortable, or they felt like comfortable already using it. And from one day to the other, they start kind of messing around with the classes, and yeah, you know what comes next, right? So it was easy because the person that noticed that, she kind of sent us a message and said like something is wrong, and I'm like, okay, let's pause for a second. Please don't try not to do anything else. Let's jump on a call and let's figure that out, and I'll explain why this happened and what we should avoid doing next time.
This reminds me one tweet from Twitter. Yeah, I understand CSS, but I don't get why I changed a class and everything changed across the site. And I'm like, really? So which is it?
Yeah. Which course did you take?
Like, so which is it? Do you understand CSS or you don't understand why it doesn't change? So yeah. All right, man. It was Diego. It was nice to have you here.
Likewise. Thanks for having me.
So it's super awesome. I hope we touched some of the points. I know we barely scratched the surface, but also we had kind of coherent understanding what your questions you had, and like the basics that are quite obvious, and those takes time to kind of look through. Yeah, and for those that were with us, I'm gonna do a better job next time with the comments. So yeah, what's up, Raymar? And but I think we're gonna end it off this week. And I'm happy that this happened. I hope the sound was okay. And I was really happy to have Diego here. And I think we're going to have you one more time sometime in the future if you're up for it, to kind of chat on the whole scalable side thing. Because that's, for me, like very interesting. Because it's a rabbit hole that I dive deep every day at my work. And I still don't know half of the answers. It's so unique like thing to do with Webflow. How do you do it? How do you do it, without horror stories? Yeah.
We definitely have those, but not... We have bad stories, not horror stories.
Yeah. All right, guys. Thanks, everybody, for joining. Thanks, Diego, for coming once again. Check bettermistakes.com, sorry. And then see you there. Follow them on Twitter. Follow them on LinkedIn. Follow Diego on Twitter. And we'll see you guys next week. And thanks, Diego, for coming. Thanks, everybody, for listening.
Thank you.
Bye, guys. See ya.
Bye-bye.